there. So when you took a survey in the first week of this quick 8-week course, I asked you, is there anything else that you want to know about? And some of the things we actually did cover in our class, and other things were a little bit outside of the scope of a 1B class or a C103 class. But I still wanted to recognize your questions, and so this quick quiz and video should help you with that, okay? And these are all based on real questions people had. Somebody wanted to know about being a comfortable and organized writer. They said, I'm not always the most organized and I'm not always super comfortable. Our very first essay had a reusable organizing structure. What does a hook kind of look like? What does a body kind of look like? What does a conclusion look like? And those sentence starters are reusable, and you can apply that to a lot of different spaces. APA for like your psychology classes might look slightly different, but the idea of like having a beginning, body paragraphs, and ending exists in almost all pieces of academic writing. And just to kind of alleviate some fears, comfortable comes from repetition. You're not born with it. Looking at your class notes and your reading guides to ensure you're on topic is usually the best thing you can do. So in most of my longer classes, people would look at the reading guide for Fat Ham, for example, with all the different questions and what do you think about this and what do you think about that? And my students could almost guess what the essay was going to be about. The same thing for the poetry unit. They could kind of look at the reading guide and they're like, I bet I'll have to write about juxtaposition or things like that. So getting comfortable with the writing by doing those little pieces of writing definitely helps with the longer pieces. And hopefully you'll notice that the more you write, the easier it gets. One person said, I'm not sure how to ask for help and I'm not always comfortable. So this is a life skill. This is something we use in the workplace. It's something that you will use as you grow into whatever career you choose. If someone offers time to help, if someone offers spaces for you to talk to peers, and all these little quick check-ins that we do, writing is hard, but also adulting's hard. Take advantage when people offer you help, right? Professional writers use editors, and people did come to the first couple office hours to get that extra support, and I think it did make a difference in their writing. One person emailed me their writing, and I looked through the first page with them. It does help, and all you have to do is ask, right? Bringing a specific question always beats, can you read everything? But it's always better to ask and ask the wrong question and get some help than suffer alone, right? A small goal for this person who's like, I'm not sure how to ask for help. Ask for feedback at least once before it actually feels natural to do that. And that can be a challenge for your fall classes with a professor that you're getting to know, or it can be a challenge for your next essay with me. I really, really encourage you to start building those professional relationships with your professors. My professors were the first people to get me jobs when I graduated from graduate school and undergrad. So asking those questions is also just like rapport building with colleagues. Okay, somebody had a question about reading. So it's okay to read something more than once, right? And I know a lot of people, what they do is the Google, then the read, but I really encourage you to read and kind of get a first pass and then go back and reread a part that felt funny or weird. In nonfiction text, preview headings and topic sentences before reading closely. This week, you're going to be reading some pretty heavy academic articles. Those topic sentences should guide you. For fiction, the best thing we can do is keep a list of characters and your reactions to the behavior. If you're not writing anything anywhere when you're reading, it's harder, right? But when you write notes for yourself, and I'm literally like on a piece of paper, on a Post-it by hand, it will do more things for you. If you feel like you're struggling, that is my single best piece of advice is you should take notes, right? You can also ask to read a passage with a professor during office hours. We literally love reading. Like, no one ever became an English major because we hated it. I don't think people realize we could do that. Like, we can sit down together and read Aristotle and read James Imes and read a poem and talk about it. It would be the best day of my life. Somebody wanted to know about haiku, and this isn't really a creative writing class, and we did more blank verse poetry in this particular course because it's an 8-weeker. 575s are really great little formats for haikus. As a person who has taught kindergarten to graduate school, I feel like haikus sometimes sit in middle school, and so it doesn't often get brought up to undergrad, a community college or a four-year college, because it's kind of been done, right? But if you want to write more haikus and you don't really have a place to put them, it's a great way to journal before you fall asleep or to calm your mind before a test. We also publish them in the Moorpark Review. And if you're wondering if AI made this slideshow, it did not, because there's a typo. There should be a parenthesis there. If you want to do a quick Google search, write prose and haiku is a great way to tie language together with your own words, and it can be a really reflective and lovely process if you just want something fun to do while you're drawing pictures and like chilling out. Okay, somebody had questions about like linguistics, and so talking about modern English versus older English and how it's changed over time. I have a unit on that in my 1A class, really, and then there's a field of study called linguistics. We don't get into it in 1B because 1B is literature, and if you wanted like British literature with Old English and Middle English, that's a separate class for English majors, and it exists. So all of that to say, there's debates about how language has changed and if it makes us smarter or dumber or we're just kind of the same. Reading habits have also changed. There's debates about what that means about us as people. Overall in the world, we've never been healthier. We've never lived longer. And so I know things can seem really dark, but I want you to believe that I'm excited for your bright future. And I do believe there's a bright future ahead of you. Our last unit is media literacy, which is kind of a new literacy skill. We're going to read a comic and you're going to present on it. It's not an essay. And that will be to help kind of this conversation move forward. So that was one slide about something you could get a PhD in. Let me know. Somebody had a question about Ray Bradbury, which was wildly specific. So here's what I know. I teach Fahrenheit 451. It's a good time. Martian Chronicles are fine. He really likes censorship and technology and nostalgia, and he's lived in California for a long time, so it's kind of fun. If you've never read The Foghorn, and then watch The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, you should do that. That could be like a fun little thing for you to do, or we could set up a night where we do that, right? It's a great case study about how short stories become movies. He's a cool, weird dude. It's 1953, so there's some problematic stuff there, but like, you know, art is art. If you and your friends sit around and get a pizza from Costco and do this, make everybody read the story and watch the movie and get weird about it and talk. What does a film gain and what does it lose? There you go, Bradbury guy. Have fun. Somebody wanted all of classical literature and poetry and mythology, right? And so mythology was threaded through all of our stories. And some people picked that up in Treasure Island Alley. Some people noticed like the American mythos, especially in Blanco's poetry. And then, of course, you know, the play we're reading right now is Hamlet, which is kind of a hero's journey gone wrong, which is kind of Heracles. So, you know, you can see how it kind of like expands out. Dr. Sims, I have so much respect for her. I love her so much. She teaches an honors class about the hero's journey, and it's just rife with Greek myth. She's wonderful. If you need to pick up another class or if you're just doing this for fun, it's always waitlisted, but do it. It's amazing. And then Theoi is a free catalog of Greek myth. It's super fun. Probably you already know the basics and you're just like, I want to talk to somebody about it. You should take Dr. Sims' class. I do not get paid for this sponsorship. I just like, that's what you should do. We already did our poetry essay, but I shared these sentence starters with people. These sentence starters were in our framework for analysis. You did such a great job on this. This person asked, oh, I don't feel good about poetry. Keep using the sentence frames until it feels normal, right? I heard this really amazing quote. We don't know when the costume turns into the clothing. After you use them for a while, they become yours, and you play with them more. So keep up that good work. This is getting long. I'm so sorry. Essays. Somebody was like, I just want to be a better writer. I have one person who's taking this class because they're a math person and they want to be a better writer. Take out the word that. You don't need it. That's such a California thing. We don't need this word. Passive voice. You can actually like check for passive voice, or you can have an editor check for passive voice, someone like me. And then very, really kind of, all of those need to go. 100%. I love Orwell's rules. These are in my textbook when I teach C100 or the freshman, the first class. Never use a metaphor or simile you're used to seeing in print. Never use a long word when a short one will do. If a word can be cut it, especially if you're repeating yourself. Never use passive when you can use active voice. Never use jargon if an everyday word works. And then break any of these rules rather than write something that's absolutely insane, right? Like if you're treading too lightly because you're trying to follow these rules, just write. These are really great editing tips if you are willing to kind of really dig into your writing after you get comfortable. Okay. If you're still struggling with quote weaving, somebody said, they say I Say is really famous. It's a book with all of the sentence starters. And it's so famous we don't make kids or students buy it anymore. You need like as so-and-so writes, blank suggesting that. This surfaces again when James Imes states that. James Imes argues, and then you can kind of split the quote between your words. A quote should never be its own with nothing before or after. People really haven't struggled with that, so we're going to move on. Somebody said, like, I want to do creative writing. You should. The Poetry Foundation is a huge free archive, searchable by theme, mood, or occasion. I've actually built relationships with some of the poets, and they visit my class when I teach creative writing. It's a really good time. And then as part of the Moorpark Review, we send out a monthly poem that we think everyone should read. Somebody wanted to talk about pop culture. Okay, we did Fat Ham, which was James Imes. And if you don't use this word already, you can use this word pastiche. It's a work that deliberately imitates or blends the styles of earlier works, often as an homage rather than a parody. And if you haven't read it yet, Dungeon Crawler Carl, I think, does a really great job of this. And it's widely available in paperback now. But if you have read it, message me, because I just finished it and I'm so angry and I need to get the second one. So if you're interested in that stuff, use the word pastiche in your essay and you'll be really cool. Okay, somebody asked how they do more creative writing and get it published. You're invited to check out creative writing classes online and on campus. I teach advanced creative writing usually in the spring, if I'm lucky. And then we have a ton of creative writing 01 classes. And we also publish a Moorpark Review, which is a magazine of fiction and nonfiction. And people send art and creative writing and all sorts of stuff so you can stay involved. That was so long. Listen to 2.0 speed. I wanted to answer every single question that people put in the survey at the beginning of the year. It's been such a joy teaching you, and the last 3 weeks are going to go so fast. Hang in there. Super proud of you. You are amazing.